do that again. It's just the three of us, Christine, Jim, and myself. Yeah, this is the second time I've done this, but it's the first time it's been on YouTube. We are streaming live from Tequila's at 10. We don't have a virtual meeting, folks, at the moment. So it's just the three of us. I just finished breakfast.
I think it's a robot.
We're talking about our streaming adventures.
A robot that ran faster.
Oh, that's for the.
And then somebody pointed out, well, he doesn't have lungs.
He doesn't have lungs. That's why they're going to beat us. Yeah. Hey, Chester just popped online. Good morning, Chester.
Good morning.
Oh, and TJ's just walked in the door. This is the first time in a long time we got more people in person than we do online. When did you? Well, wow, I'm not remembering this at all. I don't think so. Let me double check, because if you did it immediately after our last interaction. Oh, no, I just got them. Yep, cool. Might be. You generated all these with ChatGPT. Yep. Know what each one of those images was? Boy, I hope this is clip art of people. They look great. Yeah, I would imagine they'd cost quite a bit. Well, that's impressive.
Using AI.
Using AI, yeah. So you're welcome to flip through those.
So how are you enjoying Zorn?
Zorn, it's boring. I mean, there just isn't a lot. I don't know. What I would complain about right this moment is that I had to figure out how to suspend it. It was suspend, like turn off the power to it over time. It was set to by default go into a standby mode. That's mine.
Oh, that's a dog.
Oh, that's yours.
Zorin, after being installed by default, the power management was set so that within like 5 minutes, it would
power down.
Well, no, it would dim the screen, but I have a backlit keyboard on that computer.
Hey, quiet.
Here comes Richard. He'd probably be interested in this too.
For real, Richard?
Richard?
No, he's on the...
Well, he's on. Yeah, he's right here. Morning, Richard.
Buenos dias.
There's actually 4 of us here in person. TJ's sitting behind the camera right now. In fact, I should give him a microphone here. And Chester's online with you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Stone, buenos dias.
And Jim just asked me how I felt about my Zorn experience. I've been on Zorn for about a week now with an old HP laptop with a touch screen, a built-in webcam that will not run Windows 11, and so that's the reason I've gone to a Linux distribution on it. And I was just telling him I was finding Zorn kind of boring. It was pretty stable, but if I had a complaint right now, my complaint is when I installed it by default, the power management settings had the screen going to sleep in 5 minutes. My backlit keyboard was staying lit and the power was still being consumed. So it was obviously in a standby mode, not like a hibernation mode or a deep sleep mode, but it was really just powered off the screen. Everything else was still running. And so that would be my only real complaint, is that I had to go figure out how to change that to my liking. And now since I've done that, I did that a couple of days ago, I've had at least 2 experiences where the computer was frozen, like I described. Black screen, backlit keyboard, can't do anything with it, have to hard shut it down, let it restart back up. Then I monitor it for a day or 2, and it seems to be running fine. It's going to sleep the way it's supposed to.
Did you get some updates?
it's got all its update. I mean, that, of course, that's the first thing you do in those circumstances. But it's an old computer as well, so you would expect it to have already been compatible by whatever was recently installed.
Maybe.
What's is that?
It's a Linux distribution recommended for Windows people that are moving off of Windows and going.
It's the number one recommended one, basically.
I don't know. I've looked at a number of those lists, and they're very subjective to whoever's made up the list.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any.
But Zoran's always on it.
Yeah, Zorin is on it. Yeah, and I wonder. Zorin has a pro version that you pay $50 for, and it's like pre-configured. And I just wonder. I'd be interested to look into the background of Zorin, because I wonder if they've got a. Most people working in Linux have a consulting business behind what they're doing in Linux, so that I wouldn't be surprised if Zorin has a team that you can get dug in with the same way you used to get dug in with Microsoft. You've got a corporation, you want to standardize across 100, 200 computers. I wouldn't be surprised if Zorin, Red Hat absolutely does that. Ubuntu has it.
It's the Red Hat model.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it is. Now, Red Hat did a really good job of distinguishing between what version of Fedora or Red Hat. I mean, you just knew you were in the consumer version or the business version. Zorin's products are Core, Lite, and Pro. And there isn't as much delineation between these things, except for the $50 price tag for Pro. But I sure wouldn't be surprised if that's what's going on. I should look more into it. But if it keeps freezing,
Try a different one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go to another distro. I picked Zorin the way I picked what I was going to do, and Mint is right up there, Richard. I didn't pick Mint because
I didn't say a word.
I didn't pick Mint because I've done Mint before, and I was intentionally looking for different distros to do. But I definitely played with it on a USB stick for a while. And both of the Mint and Zorin had the lowest memory footprint on a live CD. If I boot off of a USB drive, both Mint and Zorin, out of the four I was looking at, had the lowest CPU usage and the lowest memory footprint, RAM footprint of the four distros. The other two being Catchy and Pop. Pop was the worst, actually. Pop System 70. I was amazed that HP decided to put Pop in their lineup. I don't know. They've done Ubuntu for a long time as a genuine release, but Pop was the one they announced they were gonna start putting Pop as a default operating system. If you went to buy an HP online, you'd see it in that shopping list of changes and updates. And when it came to operating system, the price you're looking at was with Pop or without, because Pop was free. And if you wanted to put Windows 11, they were going to add an extra $60 to your pack. This was controversial, pissed off Microsoft. I think Microsoft even tried to start a case against HP and then was quickly shut down because the language between their partners and the operating system is so loose that it's never been a formal contractual agreement between their partners and Microsoft. It's just something they did out of etiquette. They actually did it, if you follow the history, they did it not to piss Microsoft off. They did it so that they always had access to cheap operating systems for their customers. And so they would just preload with Windows and allow you to subtract it if you'd like. And that's the way most people would go and buy a computer. So it's been a real upheaval in the way this stuff is marketed this year. But Pop was not impressive. I think if I was looking at a new HP and choosing not to go with Windows, I would just go blank or Ubuntu, because they have a history of releasing Ubuntu computer. I don't think I would go with Pop. I didn't like it. I think one of the main reasons I was turned off, besides the larger, almost twice the memory usage from the USB drive, and keep in mind, I haven't installed it, and installing may change that parameter. It's just the parameter I used to determine which one I was going to try. But it used twice the memory and at least a gigahertz higher on the CPU, just sitting there idling. It was the other two distros would stay down below 2 gigahertz of activity. Remember, it's running off of a USB drive, so it's having to move memory around. But Pop was almost, it was over 2, it was almost 2.5 gigahertz of usage just sitting there idling. Ideally, an operating system would sit below a gigahertz when it's not idling. I mean, we have processors that go down to 0.6 gigahertz. You would hope that an operating system would be able to take advantage of those lower cycles. Also, I think 1.6 is as low as the CPU that I'm using can go, and that's a constraint. These newer, more efficient cores that are being built by the likes of Apple or Qualcomm with their Snapdragon processors, these can go down to these infinite cycles of like 0.1 gigahertz, and just like these whisper cycles that happen. It's just how occasionally the CPU is being enacted, and when it's being enacted quickly, you can shoot off instructions and have things come back to you very quickly. But then there's all these activities that don't need that kind of speed, and that's where you save in battery life. And so the more efficient cores can dial way down to these really slow speeds. With the older laptops that I'm trying this stuff on, they've got really regimented speeds, like 1.6 to 2.5. Anything above or below that, you're not going to get out of that processor, regardless of how efficient the operating system is. That was such a wandering digression on my part. I don't even know where it started or where I was supposed to end.
Right now, with a Chromium browser running in one desktop, Firefox running in another desktop, Libre, another browser running in a third desktop, and a document open in a fourth desktop, Ubuntu is running 1.5 gigs.
1.5 gigs in Ubuntu in Mint. Is that what you're talking about?
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Well, Ubuntu is the light Ubuntu, right?
The L stands for LXQT, but I think of it as light.
Yeah.
I mean, that's with 4 desktops open and something going on 4 desktops.
Yeah. And I have experience with that as well. And when I was doing the other laptop, I've done 2 laptops recently. I have an Asus with a discrete video card, has 2 gigabytes of video memory, but it has a 6th generation Intel processor, an i7 in it. And it was really intended to be an Ultrabook. I mean, it looks like one of those pretty, right? It was intended to be for a portable, passive gaming computer. Like, you're not a hardcore gamer, but you've got work to do, maybe executive kind of work. And then in your spare time, you might play a game or two. That's kind of the way it was marketed. And with the 6th generation Intel, it doesn't qualify for Windows 11. So it's run Windows 10 very well up till where obviously Microsoft wants me out of it. And so that's part of the search. And I put Ubuntu on that through a USB, and Richard knows this. Power management didn't work the way it needed to work. The Windows management didn't work the way I expected it to work, which I think, and I've said this a number of times, muscle memory of Windows. We got almost 40 years. We got easily 30 years of Windows training in a lot of us. And if I hit a key and a function key to change something, I expect it to do the same thing, regardless of whether I'm on Windows or Macintosh, because that memory has been built into me. And so that was one of the things in Ubuntu I was disappointed with, is I couldn't move my monitors around the way I expected to. I couldn't move between running apps the way I expect. I'm not dissing Linux. It's just, if you live in Linux, you've got ways of doing that stuff. If you're moving to Linux, the ways you've been doing that stuff need to mimic the things that you've been doing before, or the move's going to be painful. And so that's the reason I decided not to do Ubuntu this last time. All my other Linux endeavors have been out of my own curiosity, out of my own interest, or I had some utility. And one of my favorites was when Paradiso took over the Club Med out there, and the Club Med left their servers but emptied their server operating systems. They felt like, or this is what I assume they felt like they needed to just wipe the servers so there was no data left behind. So Yope was left with 3 different servers, and these are big rack servers. This is the heavy metal back in the time. These 3 rack servers, and you turn them on, and they had no operating system to boot to. And so he called me in to come up with a solution for file sharing. Didn't want to pay licensing on Windows servers or user licensing. He just wanted it all running. He didn't care if the operating systems were bootlegged on the desktop. I didn't ask any questions. Just let him do what he wanted to do. But the goal was to share file space across the network. And so I installed the Red Hat Linux on the servers, and this is back before I had kids. That was one of the few business-based, but it was all utilitarian. All my Linux experience has been out of curiosity or utilitarian. It's not been for daily driver. It's never been like right now what I'm proposing, to get out of Windows, get into Linux. And so my whole philosophy of what I'm looking at is Christine's going to get out of Windows at some point. That's the way I've been looking at this research.
And 11 port ends in 2027.
Well, yeah, is that a hard date? I mean, I saw that, but is that a hard date? Like, look at what's gone on with Windows 10.
And when 12 comes out. The other question I would have is, what have you heard about the installing Windows 11 on the uncompatible PCs? Are they all getting their updates? Because you can do it with Rufus, and you take out the secure boot and CPU.
I've heard nothing about Microsoft modifying their intentions with the hardware requirements on Windows 11.
No, but you can, or you install it with the S, as you're installing Windows 11 with the S/S for a server, and it will install Windows 11 on your machine.
Right, but these are tricks people are doing. This isn't official.
But I'm asking, I tried Googling it, nothing came up. Everybody seems happy. They haven't lost any.
I haven't paid any attention to that experience.
Oh,
we should look into it. I'll make a note of it.
I think I was going to change my server to Windows 11 unsupported, and all the other computers are going to Linux. But just for the easiness of our...
Well, I keep running into that one last thing.
1, 2, 3, 4 at the house. A laptop and 3 desktops for streaming. And the one desktop has 4 hard drives in it and 4 different operating systems. I used to do a lot of screwing around, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I checked out, and Linux will not. Quicken is not supported by Linux unless I do a dual operating.
Yeah, and Quicken will not help you figure. Well, actually, Quicken as a software needs Windows or Macintosh. They don't support Linux. But if you're doing Quicken online, then it doesn't matter.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, if you're doing it through a web browser, yeah.
Well, I had to have 2 operating systems at my Apple, because the Quicken version of Apple.
Right.
Crap.
QuickBooks was crap too. It was we had a lot of trouble moving back and forth.
It didn't have a lot of things.
It was always, I mean, forgotten. Quicken in QuickBooks is forgotten about until the next iteration of Windows. And then when that comes out, they put out a new version so your old version won't run in the new version of Windows. And that has been their gameplay throughout the generations. And so, like, one of the things that I did for the bed and breakfast years ago is I set up a virtual machine for Quicken 2007 because we've never needed an accounting package other than Quicken 2007, so that my wife can get into a Windows 2000 virtual machine that's been sandboxed from the internet, and all it does is our books. It just does our books. And it was because when Windows XP came out, when Quicken 2007 wasn't compatible. Was it XP? No, it wasn't XP. It was when Windows 7 came out. It was no longer compatible. We couldn't run QuickBooks 2007. And that's when I came up with the virtual machine solution. But yeah, unfortunately, if you're basing your compatibility, the beauty of Quicken as a service online is you're not locked into an operating system. But if you are like us with QuickBooks 2007, then you are locked into an operating system. Yes.
What, in case there's someone here that doesn't understand what a virtual machine is, why don't you explain that to them?
Well, sure. I actually, this crowd I think actually does know, but I will state it's just a machine that's been built in software. It's a software machine. You use a piece of software that manages memory and CPU usage and storage usage, and it mimics, like an emulator, a machine. And then in that machine, you can install software like an operating system. And so that's what that's a pretty easy explanation what a virtual machine is. Yeah. And so in this case, it allowed me to run Windows 2000 in a window on my wife's laptops. And then in that, she was able to run QuickBooks 2007, compatible with Windows 2000. If nobody's ever heard me say this before, Windows 2000 was one of the best operating systems ever made by Microsoft. Everything else was an extension of them trying to figure out how to make more money off of a product that was already done and working well. All they had to do was add a firewall to it, which third parties did for a long time, and that made it awesome. But
the only one I didn't use.
Really, you know, people were turned off with 2000 because it was first released without plug and play, and so just when everybody's trying to get their printers and scanners to work, this operating system comes out and makes it harder to make your printers and scanners to work. In Windows 98, it would just crash the computer. You'd restart the computer and you go back to making your printer or scanner work. In Windows 2000, it would not work unless you were an IT person putting it together. That was resolved with service packs. And so as you went through the service packs, all of a sudden we had the Windows operating system looking like Windows 98. We had plug and play available. It was just the firewall in the end that Windows XP had. Windows 2000 did not. Great operating system. Really, it took a lot less memory, took a lot less processor. You could run it on all kinds of old equipment. Windows XP, they introduced a digital system to watch what you were listening to and watching on the computer. And they could invoke digital rights copy management in the midst of what you were trying to do. It exists to this day. It only gets turned on for very specific reasons. But at the time, they were not going to turn it on unless you could verify that you were the legitimate owner of whatever it was that you were trying to listen to or watch. And so they put a firewall on your media player in Windows XP that people only learned about theoretically, because every time they looked for an occasion to use it, it would piss off their user base. And so they never really invoked it. But they always had the ability to pay attention to every stream. And it's just, I mean, it's a great way to think about where we've ended up, because that kind of thinking has been laced into Windows ever since Windows XP. It's just gotten more hideous, more insidious in those respects. This is just all off the cuff talk. I've got a couple other off the cuff talk to add to this. I'm still in lockdown mode on my iPhone. That's 3 weeks now. I think it's 3 weeks. I've been in lockdown, or maybe I'm starting my third week. However, I did explain an experience I had last week incorrectly. I thought it was a banking app. Turns out it was Alaska Airlines. I was trying to get authorized in my Alaskan Airlines app. And of course, it's something that's obscure because I'm using it now, getting plane tickets for Emily and I to go back to start the B&B season. And so that's when I discovered I had an app I could not authenticate in lockdown mode. So after our meeting last week, in fact, this just happened a couple of days. Actually, it happened yesterday, right? Because I bought the tickets yesterday. But I go in and I go, well, let's see if this really is related to lockdown mode. What I do, so you don't have to. I go into settings, turn off lockdown mode, give it my my key, my pin. The only way that you're able to turn it off and on is by giving it your pin. Phone restarts, takes a regular kind of restart time, maybe a couple extra seconds. Phone comes up, totally exactly my phone, able to do everything. Nothing's broken, nothing's missing. I went into photos. My shared album is available. Once again, I can see the album that I'm sharing with other people. So that is definitely just a block. It's not a delete. It's just blocking access when you're in locked-in mode from the device that you're in lockdown mode in. So that shared album, and this is what I suspected when we were talking about it in the last 2 weeks, is that all it does is cut off access. And I suspect it cuts off access because it's a point of entry into your system that could be, you could be bringing in a photo from that album that hasn't been vetted, that photo has some bad payload in it. We've seen stuff like that through web browsers in the past.
But you could have bought your ticket here.
I could have. In fact, I started it there, and then it reminded me, hey, let's see if there's something different on the phone. I get on the phone. It's like, oh, well, that's right? So I take it out of lockdown mode. I get in. Sure enough, that's what was stopping me from getting authenticated. I probably need to get authenticated because I haven't been authenticated since the last time I had to buy Alaska Airlines tickets. And so an upgrade or some app update caused it to flush my credentials and ask me to, that's a good security practice. As apps update, they should flush your credentials every once in a while just to make sure. Or maybe they had a breach. That's a really common reason to need to sign back into something like a Facebook or a Messenger, is they had a security breach. And so they pushed out a notice to your application saying you're not getting in unless you sign in again. Those are good security practices. In lockdown mode, I couldn't do it. In normal mode, I was prompted with the right stuff. I was able to authorize it. You know what I did? I immediately put it back in lockdown mode. I put it back in lockdown mode, restarted the phone, came back up. The app was authenticated. I was able to do everything I needed to do on the app. I buy the tickets, display the information. The tickets are in my trip, all in lockdown mode. It was the authentication of the app. Oh, and I tried to go to the settings where it says you can choose not to include this app in lockdown. I did that first. I forgot to mention that. I went to where it lists the apps, and there's Alaska Airlines Hawaii now because they bought Hawaii. Alaska Airlines Hawaii app there. And I said, yeah, pull it out of lockdown. That didn't fix it.
What was the reason you went into lockdown or put it in?
Lockdown because, in fact, one of the articles I brought in today's is left over from last week's. It's this... well, it's a couple of things. When Christine sat down, she was mentioning the YouTube of ICE makes shocking admission in court about spyware. And this is something that I became aware of this last week that lockdown mode would prevent as well. Or no, it won't. You have to do both. You have to do lockdown mode, and you have to stop previewing your messages. So this YouTube you can watch on your own is a story about how immigrants. It was immigrants, wasn't it? Gosh, now I'm not even remembering correctly. They're brought up on charges. protesters or immigrants? God, we've got so many things going on right now. I got so many things in my head. The point of the story isn't the subjects. The point of the story is that they were in a secure mode, like they were using Signal. That's the point of the story. They were using Signal, and they had it set to disappear their messages after a period of time. They did it intentionally. I think it's either protests or immigrants, or protests for immigrants, or protests against immigrants. Trust me on that. You'll find out when you watch the video. But the point is that they were being brought up on charges because of the interactions they had with each other that were discovered through an FBI warrant that allowed them access to Apple's iPhone notification system. Nothing to do with Signal, other than Signal was allowed to produce previews of their messages on the notification system built into the iPhone. I've seen this, you've seen this stuff before too. When somebody sends you a message from Facebook, it pops up on your screen, it's got that information. Sometimes you can read the entire message, right? Or your text messages, they come up on your screen, you can read the message.
I don't know.
Well, if you allow these previews, then what was discovered through this is that even though Signal has deleted those messages, WhatsApp does this too. You can have disappearing messages in WhatsApp. I suspect it suffers from the same thing. Even though
you have notifications set on your phone.
That's right. If you've got notifications on your phone, these notifications they are taking text, they're taking messages from your app, from the parent app, sticking it into the notification system, and there they reside. So even if the parent app has wiped out the message, that original message is now copied into that notification system. I did not understand this is the way the iPhone was doing things. And I'm curious if Android does a similar kind of thing. I haven't seen anybody talking about it yet.
Notifications.
Yeah, if they do the same thing, this needs to be understood. Because people that use applications such as Signal are looking for a secure solution. And this is, if you're doing the convenience of previews, you have mucked up your secure solution. This doesn't talk about it, but I wouldn't be surprised, because you are able to synchronize things like SMS messages. You're able to synchronize things like voicemail messages. I wouldn't be surprised if your preview messages don't end up in that ball of crap that ends up in the cloud as well. Something that your provider, that Apple, could be subpoenaed to give up. And I'm not saying that, I mean, like there's always the, well, if you're not doing anything, what are you worried about? And it's like, well, I mean, you might get divorced. You might not want your lawyer, you might not want their lawyers to be able to get access to those communications, right? You might have a property out there. I mean, our biggest problem right now in this respect of privacy and security is we have data broker businesses are legal in the United States. So any way they get a hold of that data may be questionably legal. Selling that data is not questionably legal. That is totally legal. And I see TJ over here. Okay, go ahead, TJ. What's your comment?
Okay. I'm starting a new venture in which we will be the bespoke driver recruiting departments for several carriers. And under both the Fair Credit Reporting Act and also the FMCSR's, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, there are certain things that we can do with reports, especially under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So if I'm acting as an agent for a motor carrier, I have the ability to pull those reports legally because I'm acting as their agent and they are the hiring entity. However, if that driver is turned down by that carrier that I am acting on behalf of, I've paid for all even though I've paid for all the reports, and I'm providing this as a final product carrier, that driver is turned down by carrier one. I cannot take those reports, NVRs, report, it's called a PSP report, criminal background checks, all of those things. I cannot then turn around and transfer those over to another client. I have to pull the entire package a second time to be able to provide for carrier number two.
I think I'm remembering last week you were telling me this was one of the changes you've made in your business model.
Correct.
Because under what you're describing, your first scenario, you're working on behalf of a carrier. And so what you're purchasing and getting access to is in their name. Whereas if you work in your name, then you don't have to.
In my name, I do not have final hiring capability. So I can act as their agent, but I cannot share that information.
Right.
Because you as the driver, you only allowed your information to be shared with ABC company,
well,
not XYZ. Once I get approval from the driver for XYZ, then I have to pull a second report because I cannot sell that information.
What you're describing, though, I think is an example of where we are right now with data brokering, data information brokering, where we have blacklists instead of whitelists. Like that regulation has been put in place for trucking for your specific experience.
It's under all employment. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Oh, okay.
Okay, under the FCRA, no one, unless they are the hiring entity.
But again, I mean, what we're talking about heavy regulation in a very niche area of information.
In a niche area, and simply because
if anything, it might be an example of how like data in general should be being. I mean, I don't know how it would be applied, but essentially the problem is it's a free for all with data in general right now.
However, when it's discovered, you have the wrath and the fury of the Federal Trade Commission.
Well, and benefactors be damned.
You do not want to be under their investigation.
I just think I'd rather have a rule to follow.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what there is. The rule is there. And rules are designed just like padlocks are designed. Keep honest people honest. As we saw from last Sunday's, 2 Sundays ago, report, or actually last Sunday's report with Super Ego and the trucking industry, and how we have serving and operating with all different types of tentacles and evading as much oversight as possible. And now one of the largest brokers is now getting tied into this also, called C.H. Robinson, as one of the largest freight brokers.
That's interesting. If you're not familiar with what TJ is referring to, there was a 60 Minutes report. Was it last week? Week before? That got into these trucking companies. What was the word they used for them? Chameleon carriers, where they operate from abroad in the United States, and they have all these different carrier companies that can, at a moment's notice, be listed under another carrier. And what was very for me very visual was watching a video of a carrier pulling off the logo of one trucker to have another logo underneath it, and pulling off the identifying numbers and having completely different identifying numbers. I mean, just like changing license plates.
Just like a movie.
Like just like a movie, right?
Super Ego changed their name this week.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
They don't sound like they have much of an ego then. sound like they're willing to
No.
swallow it a bit.
Those are the boys from Serbia, and all they're interested in is in one thing.
When you mention that name, is that the guys that you had done some work for and then got out of? Is it Super Ego, the one?
No. But
Okay.
similar situation.
Okay. All right.
Similar.
Yeah. No, I
Those
definitely
boys
thought
are-
of you when I was
In fact,
watching
the
that
owners are
report.
still in Moldova. They
I'm
haven't
like-
come back for 7 months.
I'm like,
now.
this is the reason TJ stopped working with these guys.
Yes, exactly. It's very similar.
Well, all of that just comes out of this ICE report. So this is from a YouTube channel called Legal AF, and going through how the FBI has been able to legally obtain this information from Apple because of this notification system. And that's what I thought was probably the most important thing to be aware of. I certainly wasn't. If anything, I would hope that what this means is that there'll be pressure on Apple to build a notification system that would eliminate those kinds of messages. If your intention is to have messages disappear, they should.
Have you figured out, Scott? Have you figured out whether turning that off clears the cache?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That's an interesting. You mean like if you turn it back on?
Well, you turn it off today. You have your entire fucking history of preview messages on your drive or not?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Like you would hope not, because of the nature of what we're talking
I don't
about.
see a word in Apple's documentation that it does.
Yeah, but that's data. That data is being stored on their servers.
Well, if it's, yeah, these are good questions. Is it part of that ball of BS that gets sent up to the cloud? We don't know.
What a great issue for the new CEO, since he's a hardware guy.
Oh, I'm excited about the new guy because he is a hardware
Notice
guy.
how we segued right into that.
Thank you,
Now,
TJ.
I've got to bug out early, but I did want to ask a question, and that is, if folks have an older version of their Fire Stick, are they noticing demonstrably slower response speed on their TVs?
I'm not. I've got 2 Fire Sticks in my life.
Mine's 5 years old.
Both of them are 4Ks. They're Fire Stick 4K.
I'm not sure.
Because I gave up on the basic version a long time ago because the performance of it just was shitty just to begin with. So if you're on one that's an international version, I would have been disappointed with the performance right out of the box.
No, I've been great with. It's just the last 2 weeks that I've noticed demonstrable, much slower responses.
Well, if I could give you advice, if you felt like it was behaving poorly, I'm not opposed to just factory formatting and setting it up again. It's a real easy device to set back up. All your apps are still in your library, so you can easily identify. It's not that hard, though.
Okay,
It really isn't.
Last one
Yeah.
regarding.
I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, you can do it in an hour. You can get yourself back
Last
on.
one regarding Fire Stick.
Yeah.
Did you see the announcement that they just made regarding the new Fire Sticks coming out? Everything new. No more side apps.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
We've been preparing
already
for that. In fact, TJ, if you find yourself looking for a new device, the one that we've been recommending is the one from Walmart, the ONN, the ON 4K Plus.
Yeah, the newest one.
Well, now did you see there's a newest one?
Yeah.
So the 4K Plus is the new one. It
No.
came out a week ago.
No. No, the Pro 2 is the new one that just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is
But
that
they-
a
You
stick?
got the 4K
I got
Plus.
the old one.
The 4K Plus is no, the new one you're talking about, the Pro 2, uses the same technology.
And it's a different looking box.
It is. But why we were recommending the 4K?
Available here.
No,
No.
only in the States.
US only.
The reason that we were recommending the 4K Plus over the Pro was because the Pro was using the the older generation processor, and so the performance of it was less. It was less of a good experience. The Plus used the newest, the X5 processor. I can't remember the full digits, but it ends with X5M instead of X5. Yeah, I think the M is the part that's important. But the Pro at that time had the Ethernet port, the USB port. It had all these extras that if you were using like if you didn't want to use Wi-Fi, you're in a cabled installation. That's the only way you could do it. If you're using it to play videos off of external hardware, external USB, the Pro was the only way you could do it with the on device. The Plus does not have those capabilities. But if you're trying to replace a Fire Stick, then you weren't doing those things to begin with. You were Wi-Fi to begin with, and you were not using USB external storage, not a normal person. And so at $30, that 4K Plus with the most recent generation processor was a great deal. This Pro version 2 that was just released, that has not been announced, that people are finding in Walmart. Yeah, but Walmart hasn't said that. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we had an article we never got to that was talking about Walmart pulling these things off the shelf. And people are like, are they going to keep selling them? Maybe they have new equipment coming out. All of a sudden, they've got new equipment on the shelf. They haven't said anything. Walmart's got a really different way of doing this stuff. So they're also saying they're not finding it in all Walmarts. So they're finding it in California Walmarts, but they're not necessarily finding it in like Arizona Walmarts. They're just finding it harder to get these products. Well, the Pro 2 is twice the price as the Plus. It's like $60, but it has the updated generation processor in it.
More RAM.
It has more RAM than the original Pro. It has 3 and 32 gigs. But did you see the USB is USB 2? It's not USB 3.
USB 2 is more compatible across all the stages than USB 3. But USB 3 will have a better transfer rate. USB 3 is a strange.
Well, you're talking about like a factor.
Into it and having things work. A lot of things don't work with USB 3. Where they all work with USB 2.
Well, no, that's not true. USB 3, part of the USB 3 standard is being compatible with USB 2.
USB 3.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I 3.1 for years.
Yeah.
In fact, there was just an article on it. I thought I sent it to you.
I don't know what to tell you. That is not the reason. That is not the reason USB 2 is on this device. And it also is a reason that you could limit the amount of data throughput to this device. I think the reason that they've and it's only got a 100 megabit Ethernet connector as well. These are points of supply and the supply chain. And I think that these are easier parts to get a hold of. And so that's the way they've been able to keep the price lower. I also think that they don't want to encourage a device that could act like a computer. They don't want to be selling a computer. They want to sell a streaming device. And so these kind of inferiorities, what is the word I'm trying to say? Inferiorities? Is that right? Gosh, I forget my English sometimes.
I'm finished interjecting. Thank you for allowing me to interject.
No worries, PJ. Anyway, sounds interesting, but it's more expensive. They pulled the old products. I hope the Plus is still available. That's the one I'm going to keep recommending because there hasn't been a change in the CPU. So the performance I expect from the Pro 2 to be the same as you're getting from the Plus with those extra features that you don't have in the Plus.
On that note, I was not able to set it up even though I had a VPN.
To set what up?
The
screen box I brought down before.
Oh.
I asked him to buy it because I thought Roku, I don't know, everything's going wrong.
Well, I ran into that same problem when I set it up for my customer down here, but I did find, and I did tell you guys about it, the VPN that would allow you to do it. Because I set hers up in my office with a VPN and another computer. running the VPN and then sharing that to the device, and was able to set it up. And in one of our previous meetings, I gave you guys links to that VPN and how to set it up.
That meeting.
But yeah, it needs. That's the problem with the on device, TJ. That's the problem with the Walmart device, is that it recognizes it's out of the U.S. region when you turn it on new. If you're in Mexico, you can't get it set up. You brought it back to the States to get yours set up. I set up one here under a VPN without a problem.
Just like you
No,
do
I
with the
haven't
Roku
brought it.
down here.
Well, the problem with the Roku is you got to keep it on the VPN.
Yeah.
Right. The on you don't. You just need to get past that original setup, which is an on thing. But the whole thing's run by Google TV. Google doesn't care that you're in
But
Mexico.
it didn't recognize that it was on a VPN through Echo.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. The VPN that I ran allowed me to. I did like 3 different VPNs and finally settled on one that allowed me to do it. I wouldn't have gone on to the second or the third if the first 2 allowed me to do
I'll
it.
just do it in the US. The Roku's working.
Yeah.
You get up there anyway. You got TV.
But that was the big difference. Is the Roku you got to keep on a VPN
Yep.
for you to use your
or
US.
DNS.
Whereas the on, it is an on thing. It is that brand from Walmart that wants to know you're in the US. And because you're not, it won't let you go through the setup. As soon as you satisfy that you're in the United States, then Google TV doesn't care. It gives you all the updates. You have access to everything Google TV can in Latin America, everything that's available here. I'm able to install the apps. I mean, it's just worked fine. But yeah, if I had to factory, and I proved this with that other device, if you have to factory reset it, don't factory reset it, because you're stuck proving you're back in the United States again to the on device, not to Google. Google
So
doesn't.
don't get the Walmart.
Well, I recommend the Walmart device, but
It's
keep in
excellent.
mind that it needs to be set up thinking it's in the United States. In fact, it only needs like the first 10 minutes of setup in the United States. After that, it doesn't care anymore. It's when it first comes on and you first put it on a network, it sees
But
what
if
region
my
you're in.
VPN is on my Fire Stick, it's not going to allow me to set it up.
That's right. Like what I had to do is I had to set up the VPN on a laptop and do,
Connected to it.
well, and I had to do Windows internet sharing.
Where do you connect it on?
Well, what I did is I connected the laptop to the internet through an Ethernet cable, and then I shared wirelessly that internet connection. Right, which is all part of Windows. It's all built into Windows. You can share you can make your laptop a hotspot, and the only thing added to it was the VPN that I chose. Now, whether the VPN satisfied the criteria of being in the United States or not didn't matter. For me to work, the first 2 I tried would not allow me to share them
You do
through
your Android phone too.
Does,
Turn on your VPN.
oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. If you have, I've
You
only
have a
recently
VPN
become.
on your phone.
You don't need a VPN. All you have to do is share if you've got a U.S. phone service. I was only recently turned on to this.
You have VPN on your-
You need the VPN on your phone.
Yeah.
No,
No, because otherwise my phone knows that
in Mexico.
I use Cricket.
right. If you've got service down here through a U.S. provider,
Right.
right?
Which I do.
Okay. Well, at least this has been my experience with AT&T. It thinks I'm in the United States. And if I turned on the hotspot, I would expect the on to think I was in Texas. I don't know why it's Texas, but it's
Yeah.
always Texas. But I would expect the on to be able to be
Is
authorized.
there any other state?
But you have to plug it into an HDMI.
No, the HDMI is for, you do, so you can see what's going on.
But I don't have to use that to set it up.
Well, you need to be able to see the screen.
Yeah.
That's what the HDMI is for. But if you have an AT&T phone, this should work. I mean, theoretically, this should work. If you have an AT&T phone, you should be able to turn on your hotspot, connect the on to the hotspot. Because you're going through AT&T service down here, the on should think you're in Texas, and so it will authorize, and you'll be able to set it up.
Provided that I'm subscribing for hotspot service.
If you have hotspot on your phone, that's right. Yeah, you'd have to have hotspot on your phone. I didn't even think of doing that at the time. In fact, I wonder if I set up the on before I became aware of this acting as though you're in the States and Mexico just because you have cell service down here is something I only recently became aware of in like the last couple of months.
Stay overnight.
Yeah, go up to a Ramada. And
Stay at the Motel 6 in Nogales.
Yeah.
And set it up.
It's cheaper to go to a friend's house and set it up at his house.
Yeah, the VPN is the way to do it. And maybe the cell phone would work as well. I'd love to hear somebody's experience with it. In fact, I'm half tempted to go home and factory reset mine and see if I can get it set up over my cell phone. Because theoretically, it sounds like it should work. Yeah, I got lots of free time. Anyway, the on device is the one that we like to recommend.
Computer.
Let's see. Yeah, and Jim likes to recommend the computer.
Well, I recommended the on to you in
Yeah.
the beginning.
Well, you were pointing out the Troy Point was doing big.
Well, I've got on. I have on. I have Roku's.
Wait, what's up?
Time.
We're running out of time.
and
Our meeting has 8 minutes until
Fire TV.
we've run out of time there.
I've got them all.
Bless your heart.
And the Android. I used to have Android boxes, but I got rid of those.
Bless your heart.
So, I brought a bunch of topics as well that I sent out to you guys. I don't know, TJ, you're on the list, aren't you? I don't know.
You ignore me.
The
I'm the redheaded stepchild.
He ignores everybody. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
Oh, I don't.
you shouldn't feel bad for being
Trust me,
ignored.
I know.
You should feel bad for being a low priority. Get it straight. If you're gonna be upset with me about something.
Sierra. My wife got it.
I'll have to
It's one of
remember
the
that
toughest.
comment.
So I brought a bunch of news articles. We had some stuff that was left over from last week we never got to. I'm open to listen to anybody else's topics, Richard or Chester. Richard just popped off of here. I wonder if he's trying to get into the other meeting. I'll go ahead and open this up in case Chester wants to move over to it or Richard wants to move over. Chester, you got any topics for us? Are you guys out of here?
I got to start loading my car.
Oh my gosh, we haven't even gotten to one news article yet. Okay, fine. You guys go have fun.
2 articles. You're using one of them.
I did. All right, well, have a good drive up,
Oh yeah.
and we won't see you next week, but we'll see you the following week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Have a
Slow
safe-
van.
safe trip.
Hell yeah.
And now it's just me and TJ and Chester. And nobody's shouting out any topics, so I can.
provided those images for you if you wanted to take that as a topic.
Well, if I'd gotten them just a hair sooner, I'd be able to incorporate them in what we're doing. I could show them off. I'll save them for next week.
I won't be here next week.
Okay. Well, I'll still save them for next week. TJ was with us last week, and I want to show off these pictures he had made. You said they would cost thousands of dollars to have.
No, probably about several hundred at least.
But you'd get a graphic artist to do it. They
Absolutely.
lay it all out
Oh,
for
yeah.
you. You wouldn't try and do it
Oh,
yourself.
heck no.
That's the job that's getting taken away from with AI.
What it's doing is it's freeing up professional graphic artists to do much larger projects versus small entrepreneurial projects.
I actually really appreciate the reframing because I agree with you. I think that because you are able to do this, then somebody else is able to do something so much more sophisticated. And they can work on those things. I've always felt that way about the way I do consulting. I don't like solving stupid problems. As soon as something becomes a dumb problem, I want it to have solved itself. I want to solve intelligent, interesting, unique problems. I don't want to always have to show up at your house and press a button so your printer works. I think AI has provided us with an opportunity there.
It is going to open. We said this last week. saying it for several reasons, that for the folks that embrace AI, and obviously there's a, is it working?
Yeah, it's working. I'm just like, we're the only two people in the room. I'm gonna pull this back.
Oh, you're putting me on camera now?
Well, I'll do it from a distance. There we go. That's just.
It's okay.
There we go.
Hi, Mom.
You're not even seen yet. It flips between.
Okay.
What's frustrating is to have an empty room.
For the folks that embrace AI,
It's a great shot of your back profile from a distance. So you just look like a guy in a cap.
I'm good.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. For the folks that embrace AI and not just copy and let's just use the large language model as the example. Okay. For folks that are not using it as a replacement for their work, but using it as a tool for their work, that is going to be extremely beneficial. For the folks that use it just as a replacement for their work, it's going to be so obvious what they've done that they will not be valued.
Well, what's been frustrating is the masters of the universe have looked at things like the promotional pictures you've made, and then they've taken that scenario and used it to threaten their arts department, to lay people off because look what's coming, to hire new people at cheaper rates because they're competing against AI now. But it's going to shake out. I have full confidence it's going to shake out. I think that I was listening to some programmers talking this morning, and it was just really encouraging because we've seen such development in programming. One of the things that sparked the conversation was that Cloudflare has recently released a framework to replace WordPress, which is a little bit entitled, that they would feel like they could do that since they have nothing to do with WordPress. But at the same time, their all development, they're trying to move towards a more secure, more I want to say compatible, but like a more robust, a more open framework that so much of the internet runs on WordPress right now. And the biggest problem, that's probably where I should start this impromptu statement, is that if you're not aware, WordPress runs over 40% of the internet. And when you go to a website, it's probably a WordPress site. WordPress also, if you're not in the know, is notoriously a security problem, mostly from third-party plugins that get plugged into it. It's not necessarily the framework that is the security problem, but because the framework supports the work of third parties to widgets that can be added to your website, that's typically where all the security problems are found. So you're constantly having to update your framework and update the plugins that sit within your framework to maintain security. The -M is what they're calling this. Didn't come here expecting to talk to anybody about it.
The M dash.
M dash, yeah. M dash, I'm sorry, thank you. M dash is the proper way to talk about it. M dash. But Chester is with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
The presumption of Cloudflare to offer an alternative to WordPress is only accepted because it is to be much more secure, and the thought is that it's been built with AI in mind. Not that it would be using AI, but it would be developed by AI. So the idea being that each following iteration of this project will continue to be iterated by AI, and it starts out written with that intention. Our software, and I'm talking about M dash, but we could be talking about anything in the next generation of software. that has been created with the intention of AI continuing its development, different from where we are right now. Where right now we have a legacy of 50 to 70 years of software that's been built on top of itself, all human generated, human logic, human errors, human problems. This project of Cloudflare is interesting because this has been built specifically with the idea that AI is going to be maintaining this software base as we go forward. And it really is a demonstration and an example, maybe an analog to where we're going with this stuff. Programming is going to change. And in the same conversation I was listening to earlier this morning, they used the example of how nobody's programming assembler any longer. It just doesn't happen. If you're writing device drivers, like you've got some new widget that's going to physically plug into the computer, maybe you're working in an assembler. But we scaled that up. When I got into computers, they taught us an assembler class, and it was the last time I ever saw assembler, because assembler is down close to the metal, and what computers has always been about is abstracting up to higher levels so that they can be interacted with by normal people. These are machines being interacted with by just your standard human beings. And so every time we bring speech in or touch or gestures, what we're doing is we're abstracting up to another level to make a machine do something through some natural way that we interact with each other in the real world. So I learned on C and C++ and Pascal and these languages that were called third generation languages. Sorry about that. Yeah, Ruby on Rails is probably thought of as more like a fourth generation language, where you can just tell it what you want, and AI is going to be that next generation. We are going to. This is where this discussion led to, was that just like there's barely anyone out there programming for assembler. There are some very specific reasons, but in general, that's not what the software industry is made up of. People aren't programming in assembler. We're going to watch this transition from human-generated code to AI-generated code, a foundational model of building products where you have abstracted up to a higher level, and the majority of people working with code will be working at that higher level. And there will be that niche level underneath everything, that plumber making sure everything's still connecting together correctly. But there'll be a lot less of that and much more stuff happening at this higher level.
Well, look at the user interfaces for your car.
Yeah, that's another good example of this.
25 years ago, I have a 2005, 20 years ago. Touch panel, digital display.
Right.
It didn't exist.
Right. Actually, some could argue that's not an improvement. That's
well.
We're in the middle of a movement back to knobs and buttons, right? Because the distraction of the digital display and the unstandardizing of how those work. Like every time you get into a new vehicle, you have to learn how it works now.
Well, the amount of data that's available, as an example, for truck drivers on their dash now is huge in comparison.
Yeah.
To what I had when I drove, and I stopped driving in 2014.
Yeah.
So in a matter of 12 years, the new data that's available on the new Mac Pioneer trucks is incredible, including virtually everything, all the telemetrics that a driver would are right there at his fingertips.
Well, and this also would include things like distance and gas usage and speed, and I mean all these things. So, with your experience in the industry,
remember, fuel, not gas.
Fuel. With your experience in the industry, do you think this has improved driver safety and reliability?
Absolutely.
And yeah,
absolutely.
Anecdotally, I have no ties to the business. But anecdotally, as a driver on the highway, I feel like when I first came to Mexico, I saw this incredible contrast in the way truck drivers would behave in the United States versus in Mexico. Again, no research, just my own experience. Felt like truck drivers were very aggressive in the United States. Felt like they typically were going faster than the rest. We were in their way. They had deadlines to meet. That's the impression that I got as a driver on the highway. In Mexico, I never got that impression from truck drivers. I did, however, get that impression from bus drivers.
Yeah.
Right.
And part of the difference is that most of the trucks here are governed much lower, at a lower speed than what trucks in the U.S. are.
You mean like the industry? Like, is there a regulation keeping them at a lower speed?
Regulations.
No.
As of now, Canada there are.
Yeah.
But in the United States, there is no regulation reference
to govern the
right.
speed of the vehicle.
But
here in Mexico, there's no regulation. That's what you're saying?
No, but the manufacturer, not the manufacturers, but the carriers
will govern the speed.
Have governed speeds. So that's why you'll see some trucks traveling at
the speed limit.
Well, some of them traveling, the fastest they're doing is 90 kilometers.
Yeah, yeah.
And not
110
or 110 or
yeah.
whatever, because the fuel pumps are not allowing them to run that.
Well, that's interesting as well. That sounds like that has something to do with risk avoidance from the carriers and incentive. The incentive style must be set up slightly different.
And a lower level of education
necessary
for
the drivers
between the U.S.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, like, I can drive a car just fine. I can't drive a race car. I have in the middle of Weymouth driving experience, not going around a track at 180 miles an hour. And so I can see how you're not. It's not competence; it's experience you're talking about.
145 is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and that's miles per hour.
Well, we are way off of my document. You have anything else you'd like to talk about, TJ, as we're wrapping up this meeting? I guess I should give Chester a chance too. Chester, you got anything you want to contribute?
No, I'm done.
You're done?
Have a nice day.
What's that?
Have a nice day.
You too. We'll see you next week, buddy. TJ, you got anything else you would like to contribute?
I got nothing.
Nothing. All right. Well, you guys heard that. I guess we're out of here. That is the end of our meeting. If you're interested in being part of our meeting, just get a hold of me through scclub.org. It's the website. You can find us. Geez, do I still have a Twitter account? I guess I do. I don't really use it. Easier to get a hold of me through Scott at scclub.org, or get a hold of me if you've got any IT needs out there. I will help you remotely. Scott at internationalcs.net. That's my email address. I do a lot of remote work from here. I also do, local work. So if anybody out there locally is looking for something, let me know. Until next Tuesday, you all have a great week and tech on.